next person I'm going to invite is Gabriela Dlamini Ramalitze, Cloud Solution Architect, Data and AI. And she will be joined by Unevana Strekerson, who is the manager products from Masipala waseThekwini, and it's Own It, Understanding Your Role in Data Governance. I will ask my speakers that it's at 11:20 now. We're running behind schedule, so we have time that is allocated per these sessions. So the next speakers have 20 minutes to take us through their presentation. Thank you.
Good morning, colleagues. It's indeed a pleasure to be here with you this morning. I know we're few in numbers, but we're hoping that it will actually be quite a productive discussion. So I'm going to start off the presentation, followed by Gabriela, and we then have Mr. Vishnu Mabir, also from eThekwini Municipality. I will be taking you through the eThekwini data strategy this morning. It's a process that we've embarked on that sits as the guiding strategy/document, but it basically guides the data work that has been happening within the municipality. We actually started with the data-related work and digital transformation without having any strategies or policies in place. We learned a lot from those processes, and we've now fed that into this data strategy so that we start owning digital transformation and data in the city. I will be quite quick. I'm obviously not going to go through all of the detail, but on the slides at the moment, you get an overview of what this data strategy is all about. It speaks to matters of data governance, so who owns what? How are we going to control data in the city? How is data going to be moved around? How do we collect data? Obviously, all the POPIA requirements, etc. It also talks about data sharing within our municipality, as well as with other organs of state. We talk about data ethics, so things like confidentiality, where's the data being stored, and then of course things like data standards. So for example, if you are collecting a date, what is the ideal format for that date? Should be uniform across all systems, etc. This actual strategy and the work behind it was done in partnership with the Open Cities Lab, and it was actually funded by the British High Commission. It also came with use cases that formed part of the strategy, where it helped us to test out the contents of the strategy and make sure that they were practical for our environment. One of the use cases led to the development of a system. It was using existing software, no additional cost, and that's actually gone live. It's a system that helps us to control the council resolutions and manage and monitor those resolutions much more effectively and efficiently. This slide that you see now is actually showing you the online portal where the data strategy is housed, colleagues. This portal is intended to be interactive. You can go on, you'll have a look at the contents of the strategy. We also welcome comments, but as you can see, the contents that I spoke about earlier are part of the strategy. It also talks about things like leadership. Who needs to run the strategy? Where must data-related work sit in the organization? How do we use data for decision-making? When we're buying software and data-related tools or systems, what do we need to look out for from a procurement perspective? How do we all work with data? How do we collaborate, etc.? This slide, colleagues, I'm definitely not going to go through the detail, but the reason I've included it is to show you that the data strategy of the municipality actually sits at the center of the digital transformation work that is ongoing. We're showing you some of the digital transformation initiatives that are underway, including our smart city work, the digital twin, the data repository, and some of the work that my colleague Vishnu will talk about later. And then, of course, trying to digitize manual processes. But they are all underpinned by this data strategy. My last slide, colleagues, just looks at some of the outcomes of this data journey that we're embarking on and how we hope that this data strategy will help us and guide the work. Obviously, again, not going to go through all of it, but more importantly, it talks to how we improve the quality of our data, how do we enhance governance of data within municipalities, then, of course, how do we use that data for decision-making, How do we ensure data is interoperable amongst our systems and that we can use it across different systems? And then it helps us to monitor whether we are actually improving. And that, I think, is most important in municipal environments. How do we use our data to ensure that we improve service delivery to the residents of the city? That is it for me, colleagues. Short and sweet, I'm going to hand over to Gabriella, but I'll just end by saying that we welcome any comments, any interaction. Once we're all done, there will be a question and answer session, so I'm happy to answer at that stage. Thanks.
Okay, good morning everyone. My name is Gabriela Dlamini Ramaditse, and as introduced, I'm a data and AI cloud solution architect from Microsoft. Okay. Right. Okay, so today I've been tasked to talk about the tools around data governance. So data is one of the most precious assets that an organization can have. Data tells us where we come from, data tells us where we're going. So hence the importance of fostering a culture around data governance. And I mean, this can be achieved in multiple ways. So if we're looking at the first point we have there, educating our employees around what their role is in data governance is very important. So we need to understand what is the role around security that we play around data governance. Secondly, we need to look at policy. So it's important that our organizations have policies in place around data governance. And I mean, these can be policies around security and how data is accessed. And you can even, for example, put in labels around how we classify our data. Thirdly, we need to look at the accuracy of data. Now, the accuracy of data stems from the tools that we use to capture the data. We need to ensure that the tools are aligned with policies. So, for example, we need to make sure that we have certain standards that we put in place when we are developing these tools so that we are ensuring that the data is accurate and consistent. And fourthly, we need to constantly improve our tools. So we need to be able to interact with people in organizations on how can we improve these tools, how can we improve the policies, how can we improve data collection as a whole. And this ensures that everybody is involved in the process of data governance, so it becomes everybody's business and everybody owns it in their day-to-day interaction with data. Next slide. So again, we can implement certain tools in helping us with data governance. So for example, we can have a centralized data access, a single source of truth. So if we have our data in a centralized place, we ensure that the data sets that we are reporting on, the data sets that we are looking at are governed properly and that we are actually putting out the truth, okay? Secondly, we can also have what we call security and privacy measures. And there are multiple security measures that can be placed in our policies. For example, you can use something as simple as row-level security. So what this allows us to do is put in security at a row level in a very granular way. So for example, if I am manager A and responsible for department A, I am only allowed to see data or data concerning my department. And whatever is happening in department B, I will not have access to see. And again, we can also put in place data labels, classifying our data. And it's also important that we control who has access to this data, as well as the level of access these people have. And lastly, it's important for us to have governance oversight. So constant auditing to see where is our data going, who is accessing our data, and for example, the type of access or the level of access that people have to our data. We also need to constantly audit, do these people still need the type of access that they have? So this ensures that governance is fully controlled when it comes to our data. Next. And we also have what we call Microsoft Purview. So this allows us to have an end-to-end governance solution within our data estate. Okay. So just to give a quick overview of what Purview is. So firstly, you need to find your data. So if I were to ask everybody in this audience, do you know where your data is? What would the response be? Would it be a resounding yes, Gabriela, we know? Or would it be a back and forth, I think, it was with Department A? What do you guys think? Do you know where your data is? Do you know who the custodians of your data are? Is it a yes? Is it a maybe? So that's a very important point. We need to know where our data is. So regardless of whether our data is sitting in the cloud or our data is sitting somewhere on premise, we need to be able to map our data. We need to know the custodians of our data. Secondly, once we've gathered our data and we know where our data sits, we need to be able to label our data. So as government employees, we know that we deal with a myriad of data, different data types. There's data that is more sensitive and classified and data that is less classified. So we cannot treat our data the same across the spectrum. So we need to correctly label our data. And once we've done that, it's important for us to track the journey of our data. So data does not remain stagnant. Data changes, data moves. So we need to know who has access to that data, who is editing our data, what are the changes that are happening in our data. And if data is moving outside of our organization or even flowing within our organization, we need to be able to know where the data is going. And lastly, we need to check the health of our data. I think everybody that has ever had to create a report or any form of analytics will tell you the importance of data accuracy. They will tell you how frustrating looking at the data that has null values and mismatches in data is. So we need to ensure that we know what the health of our data is, if there's any issues within our data, how we are reporting truthfully to our citizens. And all in all, this actually helps us with the entire data governance. Thank you very much. I am going to be handing over to our colleague Vishnu.
Greetings, everyone. So you've heard about data strategy from Nirvana. You've heard about the tools from Gabriela. I'm Vishnu Marbir. I'm with eThekwini Water and Sanitation. And I'm going to talk about actually building something and some of those minefields that we've had to deal with strategy, with people owning data and not releasing it, or not even knowing where the data is. So we've tried to harness all of the data within eThekwini Water and Sanitation, because we have a lot of data. But just to give you some context about what we are and where we are. So there's about 4 million people, there's about 1.2 million households in the city. There's a rapid influx into our city because we provide good services, and I'd like to say that. And so we have to deal with more people, aging infrastructure, and limited resources, right, with the same amount of resources that we have. And it's becoming quite difficult. And when I say limited resources, we've also now have restrictions on our raw water, which means we have to manage what we've got with less. And so we've got this context in the city where about 65% are indigent, and we provide that 65% with free basic water. So there's quite a bit that we have to deal with, and we have to manage it better. We've got lots of data. So we've got field reports that are written out manually. We've got stuff that people calculate on their own desktops with Excel. Then we've got centralized data. We've got fancy systems. So as water and sanitation, we developed our own fault management system, which has massive amounts of fantastic data on it. But we need to be able to harness it and make it work for us. Then we've got things like SCADA, which looks at live IoT devices, which we can also control stuff on the field. But it's also very good management data that we need to harness. So we started with our fault management system, and we said, let's look at how we get that data. But the overall goal is to get the data from all the various sources, right? Clean it up, manage it, and then make it accessible and usable, and then gather insights from that. And with the current tools that we have, we can then make it easily usable by the executives, not only for strategy, but also for dealing with questions that might happen right now, and they may be able to give you some live answers. Whereas normally you'd have to go down to the expert who deals with GIS or scale your data to make your decision or get your answer. So we're trying to make it more accessible and easy to work with. And therefore we want to have equitable access to water. As I said, we've got this massive indigent population that the city has to manage, and we need to make our resources work better. We want to make our data transparent and inclusive. And we want to improve our efficiencies. As I said, it's an imperative. And one of the biggest things for the city is we've got a non-revenue water of about 55% or even greater than that. And if we can start turning that around, that alone is going to have a massive impact. So we're hoping that the data, so we took one set of data and aligned it with some of our GIS data, and then we started to make that work for us so it can provide us with real insights. So response times for sewer faults, for example, or even water faults. If we can start tracking that for the number of responses we've had within 48 hours, then we can benchmark against other cities and ourselves and our past performance. Because you can't manage something unless you measure it. So we started to then put these indices in and start looking at these indexes so that we can improve our performance, and the operators on the field can understand what the impact of their performance is. And if you take, for example, response to a water leak or burst, that would then impact on the amount of water that's lost if we respond quicker. If we take faults per suburb, then we can understand where we need to concentrate our efforts. Because if there's higher faults, it may be due to aging infrastructure. It may be due to a higher population. It may even be due to some education. So this allows us to provide proper analytics and understand our system much better. So faults per suburb is quite an important thing. And there's many other indices that we're using. So I just want to say thanks for everyone for building the system that we can start using to work towards a better goal. Thank you.
All right, can we get maybe one or two questions, if there are any, to the panelists? No, we do not have questions, so all was clear and informative. Ladies and gentlemen, our panelists, thank you very much. Thank you. All right, we will move forward with the program and go straight into our next speaker, who is going to take us through his presentation. Mr. Richard Giver is the head of service design and delivery in the digital services unit in the presidency. And he's going to talk to us about moving from manual to magical, unlocking efficiency through process. Over to you, Richard. Asemshali Hlombe.
Thank you so much. Is there a clicker or? Thank you so much. Top button. All right. Hello, everybody. As said, my name is Richard Gevers, and I'm from the newly formed Digital Services Unit in the Presidency. If I stand here, I hope you can see what's on the screen. But I just wanted to take you back. Actually, funny enough, I'd wanted to be with you a lot more this week, but got COVID last week. So one of my friends said was, so 2022. But I wanted to take you back to that time. And what happened was we got struck by a pandemic as a country, and we found out a couple of very hard things, that at a national, provincial, local level, that without being in person, it was very hard to verify people were who they said they were. It was very hard to pay them, especially life-saving grants like SRD, the SRD grants. But generally as government, we didn't have a very easy way to find out who people were, be able to pay them. We realized that talking about data, our data is completely siloed. And a lot of you in the room will have known this for years. But for, I think, the first time, it really made sense to the leadership outside of technology that digital transformation is about next generation government. And it's not about something that sits in the IT department or with the CIO or the CTO or Chief Data Officer, but transformation or next generation government is digital. You can actually take the digital out of the word because everything will be digital. And so that is the job of the city manager, the premier, the mayor, the presidents, the ministers, the DGs. All of us have to come together to create something that solves this incomplete information on services, barriers to access, poor targeting, vendor lock-in, systems that don't talk to each other, all of these sorts of things. And so a digital transformation roadmap was created over the course of the last 2 years, 2 to 3 years, that we believe is essential in restoring trust into government services across the board. So we all know the journey we've been on as a country. From the 90s, we've been seeing bits of technology and data being used in government. But in some ways, South Africa, for various reasons, got left behind in some parts of really key bits of technology and data in terms of the public sector. For one, we had online services start to come on board, digital communication, data integration sharing as we're seeing, and that sort of thing. But in South Africa, the divide remains very deep. Access remains very deep. We had a lot of people talking about 4IR before we have 3IR. And we have a lot of systems that don't talk to each other, that aren't interoperable. And so moving into a modern age of digital government, or just government, next generation government, requires a whole of government design and implementation. And where I say we've been left a little behind is because what we've seen our peers do over the last 15 years is move away from silo-based delivery of technology, end-to-end vendor systems that are not interoperable with anything else, into a series of modular, API-driven and connected, microservice architected governments that allow for the transformation of the digital space into something that is local driven, interoperable, safe and secure, and presents government as a platform for the private sector to build on top of, and civil society to build on top of, and academia to build on top of, to reach everybody in the country, and not just those with access to a phone and the internet. And so what we've seen is the move away from silos into this idea that the whole of the state, doesn't matter, let's take off out of our headspace whether we're from province or local or national. The whole of the state sits on core registries, your population register, and the people that are in the country, the land register, core data, all right? Then what we've been doing for years is paying then the president is very clear about this. Government has to stop being just a holder of contracts and start becoming the capacity that implements services. And so for a whole bunch of years, that shared infrastructure, it says digital identity payments and data exchange, but you can say it to much more, has been, we've bought it again and again and again, and we've outsourced it again and again and again in the same city ecosystem. We might be buying the same system 5 times, 6 times, outsourcing those skills, shipping those jobs to Silicon Valley, shipping the local technology, the ability to create technology to another continent. And so the rethinking that's happened in Estonia, in Europe, in India, in Brazil, in Rwanda, has started to say, well, let's start to create shared infrastructure that creates common components that we build on top of, that allows us to develop services that are integrated. And why this is really critical, I'm going to just come back to that, so I hope there's a way to go back, is because our user case in the digital transformation is a woman called Thandi, all right? She is just matriculated from school with good marks. She has a young child. She has an elderly mother who she needs the help with the pension grant. She's looking for job opportunities. She's looking for further education opportunities. And when she comes to all of ours, and we take this as a state, provincial, local, national platforms, she's met with a chaos of design and the information that doesn't make sense, systems that seem different from one place to the next, things that seem difficult to work with. So what we need to do is design a state that it doesn't matter if you're a city, a local municipality, a province, or a national government department. We need to change the supply side driven thinking of services into something that is citizen demanded, person demanded, people demanded. And so what we're doing in the digital transformation is we're creating an ecosystem where people in the country are able to access services through this government as a platform, shared approach, microservices, modular approach, open source approach, that allows for people to access services based on their need. Thandi shouldn't have to care whether health is a provincial mandate or a clinic is run by a city or there's a certain policy at national. For Lebo, her child, when Lebo gets born, that birth registration needs to be automatically linked into the population register and happen that she knows who her parents are. She needs to immediately be connected into ECD and the vaccine schedule that might come out of a provincial database. And so learning from our peers, the mission for the Thandis, and this use case is a Thandi who's maybe got digital access and matriculated well. There are the Thandis out there that are undocumented, haven't had a birth certificate. There's the Thandis that haven't been able to finish school. So how do we start to create a state and a transformation that speaks to this thinking and rather than the silos? And so the roadmap sets up a vision around creating services that are accessible for all, a digital identity that is quick and biometrically linked, that both makes it very, very fast for you to register and be understood and known in the state system, sitting in DHA with your data safe, and only in DHA and nowhere else, but also something that allows you to give access to services that get much bigger. Interoperable data exchange. The Mzansi exchange was just launched 2 weeks ago. And if anyone wants to go and look at the Mzansi exchange, you can start to see how we're moving away from an idea of data sharing, where we're shipping data, masses of data across between each other and in emails and in Gmails because our emails are down inside the system, and starting to say, let's build data access through a national data exchange that connects to cities, provinces, national departments, agencies, the private sector, civil society. We're creating a government-to-person payment system, and you've started to see some of this come through. PayShop, PayInc, these sorts of things happening with the National Treasury and the Reserve Bank. We're saying that you shouldn't need to be banked formally to get government to be able to pay you a grant. and we should open up financial inclusion to all, and we should open up the market to new entrants to be able to provide South Africans with services alongside the traditional financial sector. So what's so critical to me, because everyone likes these things, these are exciting, but the roadmap really speaks over the next 5 years to delivering a digital capacity inside the state. We need to stop being people that sign contracts and try to just do procurement, and we need to start being the people that implement this stuff alongside our private sector partners. We need effective governance and coordination, and I'll speak a little bit to that quickly, but it's boring, but it's really important. We need proper, transparent monitoring and evaluation, and then a vibrant non-government community, and you see it outside there. It's not saying we're getting rid of the incumbents, and it's saying that they have a really big role to play. But what I would really like to see is that all those jobs start to become jobs here for new startups, for new digital providers, for new civil society in South Africa as we move forward. So this is governed through what's called an interdepartmental working group. This is the most government slide I think you could ever imagine. But it's important because of the crowd to say that this project, this digital transformation roadmap, forms part of Operation Vulindlela. It's driven by the presidency through an interministerial committee. So all of the national ministers and their departments are on board. This particular steering committee is governed and co-chaired by the presidency, National Treasury, and DCDT, the DGs of those departments. And then across the technical and capabilities work streams, director generals are all responsible for delivering this together. And so we're seeing, for me, because South Africa's had a lot of digital transformation attempts, but for the first time we're seeing this as the job of all of government and all of society, and not the job of the technology departments or the CDO or CTO. So we get Thandi there. What is our first key thing we're going to do? First thing we want to do, and we've been working deeply with SASSA, NSFAS, Dell, and SAU Thurambi, is we want to make sure that the link between social protection systems and labor is strong. We're going in to try and intervene significantly in social protection to make sure that both fraud and leakage and things are sorted out, but that people are able to get their grants efficiently. They don't have to be standing in queues. They don't have to be coming back because they're being told their documents are wrong. So we're really looking into the service design around how to transform that, while still being very careful about digital access, because the divide is still very real. But also just establishing the bodies like myself. So I now represent a digital services unit inside the presidency that is tasked with implementing and coordinating all of this work. We're putting skills into different parts of departments, different teams, gathering the GTOCs together to starting to create the capability of the state to deliver this. And then also unlocking the innovation through this non-government community. So as we build government as a platform, as we start to get very strong on national data standards, on national open source standards, adapt and reuse before you buy. But when you need to buy, this is how you buy, and this is how you incorporate. We want you to be able to bring in someone and literally lift and shift to the next vendor the next day, if that has to be the case. So no lock-in, but this idea of an ecosystem that's working together for Thandi. I think also what that's going to take is obviously establishing a lot of implementation capacity inside government. Once we've got these things right, from 2027 to 2030, the goal is to scale this out. There's a bunch of projects, and this is all available on MIAM's. So this is something we will change soon, but one still has to put in the www. So you have to go to www.miamzansi.gov.za. You will find details to these projects and a lot more there. But I just wanted to rush through a little bit quickly, because one of the most important things I wanted to say is that digital transformation, there's two places that it often gets stuck. First, it often gets stuck in the department of the CIO or the CTO or CDO, but it also gets stuck in government efficiency. And sometimes we become very good at doing our jobs, and the people of South Africa see no change to their lives. And they see super apps being presented and things like that, and they say, yeah, but when? All right, so one of the key things we're doing in this digital transformation strategy is we're making sure that government efficiency is definitely part of it, but also that the benefit for the person, for society, is how we measure ourselves. So you can see there that as India implemented its digital ID system, it saved $12 billion in just a couple of years. The UK saved $5 billion in 3 years by starting to cancel duplicate contracts that it had because departments kept buying like duplicates of the same procurement, by building tech inside that it could use. So there's a lot of cost savings that comes from Brazil's PIX PIX system. Go and check it out. It's so significant that Visa and MasterCard are feeling the effects of people moving onto government payment rails in Brazil. So there's the cutting of the IT costs, but there's also the ability of the platform it provides, both national and international digital service providers, to build new things. And so the job creation and the economic impact of this digital public infrastructure approach that we're taking in every country that it's happened has been up to 1 to 2% of GDP has been added as a result of the work that we're talking about. So we're excited about it. The last thing I wanted to show you is a quick look at what some of you are thinking. Don't worry about what this looks like. It's going to look a lot better. But one of the things we often say is that the front door of government, whether you're talking about your city or your province, but I'm going to talk about national right now, and my colleagues at national know that this is part of it, is if you go to www.gov.za, the National Treasury website, or the Department of Home Affairs website, it looks like you're in different countries. All right? Now think about adding provincial to that. Now think about having like local to that. And you can see how we're just confusing the citizen. Tandik has no idea how to get to level getting vaccinated. So one of the first things is not just about look and feel. Everyone here will understand that service design starts with the user, and for too long we've been a supply-side state in terms of technology. So core to this roadmap is starting at service design and saying, what does a Tani need in order to navigate government? And we've got the opposite of the private sector. Private sector wants people to stay on their platforms. We want people to get off our stuff as fast as possible. Come and get your thing and get on with your life. So how do we start to build that service design in that starts to say, well, accessibility will be at the core. Whether you're visually impaired or hearing impaired, that will be a requirement that is set like to any government website. People learn to use the internet through Google, so a search bar will be prominent. The menu bar will always be in the top left. These are sort of very, this is going deep into a gov.za kind of website design, so a very deep example, but just trying to prove whether it's ID systems or payments or data exchange or the front door that people are experiencing services through, they need to start to see the state as something that they can understand, they can navigate, and is meeting their needs. And so we get to what's coming soon, and this is, just to kind of a quick explanation of how this all fits together. So when one starts to envision a future South Africa, and you're thinking about how you want to access your Tundi and you want to access government, first thing is you come to any website or any kind of interface, a kiosk and a service center, an app on your phone, and you log in with your digitally biometrically linked ID. That means we know you are who you are, and it's safe. We've arranged services for you across provincial, local, and national offerings that are linked together in that lifestyle way that incorporate ID and payments and the data exchange to offer you the services you need. Tani needs Lebo's, know that Lebo's vaccine provincial health connection is due. She's linked her profile in a very safe and secure way to Zanele, her elderly mother, to help with her pension, because Zanele will never use a phone or go, be using an app. That's just not for her. It's looked at her digital matric certificate and being able to understand that she could be eligible for a NSFAS grant or a job application because of her matric results. Her smart ID is now something that is phone-based. She can explore services and her credentials by section. We can start to understand where in the service chain things are breaking down. We have linkages with local governments and provincial governments. So, for example, where was it? You know, a local municipality that needs you to log your water meter reading, that's sitting inside there. And most importantly, Tandi's in control of her own information. It's consent-driven, it's data minimization driven, and she's able to, I'll be wrapping up in 1 second, she's able to see and navigate government in the way that she wants to do it. She can see who's accessing her data. We have case management running across the state. So this was a bit of a insight into the future that we're envisaging and asking you to come on a journey with us. It'll look a lot different to this by the time it's out. Some of it is working software already that we're very keen to demo very soon. So this is not just presenting kind of wireframes and slides. A lot of this is actually starting to work and will be launched very soon. And there will be a journey as to how it gets into the citizens' hands. But especially to this crowd, what we're really asking is reach out. You have your provincial GTOC and layers, you have your local government layers. We are keen to work with you. If you're sitting in civil society, if you're sitting in the private sector, we're keen to understand how we get to a vision where this is the start of the partnership. This is the start of working for Tandi. We've been doing a heck of a lot of great work. I know sitting in the room here, the amounts of code, assets, designs, things that government has done. We're not starting from scratch in terms of that. But this is a Operation Vulindlela digital transformation strategy, top-level led partnership that's going to bring together us to be able to make sure that Tandi. So I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you. I have to hop off now. I've abused my time and I'm going to get in trouble. But yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Giva, for that insightful and informative presentation. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we are getting now to another exciting item where we will get Microsoft partners who are going to come and do their presentations. I'll introduce two gentlemen from PowerVerse. It's Kiabetso Mputi as well as Tulani Mafimbela. They are going to come and give us their presentation. Let's give them a big round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Hope everyone is doing well. We've been excited to be part of this digital transformation event. So I would just like to quickly read a story for just a minute or so before we go into what we're going to be showing you today. Okay. Once upon a time, deep in the heart of Africa, there was a tortoise. Every morning he watched the cheetah sprint, eagles soar, and the gazelles leap across the plains. They were fast, and every day seemed to move further ahead. The tortoise, slow and steady, began to wonder if there was even a point of trying to keep up. The world was racing towards the horizon, technology, innovation, speed, while Africa seemed to move one careful step at a time. But here's what the tortoise understood. The race isn't only about speed, it's about direction, endurance, and wisdom. When others rushed, the tortoise observed. When others stumbled, he adjusted his shell and kept moving. When others burned out, he was still on the path. And as time passed, the tortoise discovered something others didn't. The horizon only moves for those who never stop walking. Today, Africa may seem like that tortoise, moving slowly while the rest of the world races ahead. But step by step, the intention with collaboration and innovation, we are rewriting the pace of our own journey, because the tortoise does not need to be fast. It only needs to keep moving forward. And it will get there in its own time and its own pace. Ladies and gentlemen, we are Powerverse. We are the children born in the African soil. We have taken initiative to say that we are not just followers, but rather leaders in this digital transformation era that we are embarking on. So at Powerverse, we obviously started utilizing the offerings of Microsoft technology that is available through AI, a Power Platform, as well as custom development that speaks to transforming departments, private sector, as well as entrepreneurs in instilling technology usage in more productive and efficient manners. So we have a plethora of apps that we have built, but today we are going to showcase one that speaks to entrepreneurship at its core. Tenders, as we all know, it is a very big market in terms of South African economy. Small SMMEs, big institutions tender through government, through private sector. So we thought of a way in terms of how can we speed up these processes, enabling such entrepreneurs like ourselves to be efficient and more effective in submitting bids as well as proposals. So Propel Bid is this baby that we are showcasing today. So my colleague Tulani is going to go through some of the technicals in terms of showing a live demo, but I just want to speak at a high level in terms of what it does. Okay? So at its core, we have 3 pillars that we've based this solution across. So it's all about content and knowledge hub training, where models such as existing ChatGPT, OpenAI embedded models are centered around this knowledge hub. This ensures that there is easy uploading of content in terms of how you have your knowledge base, content that you've submitted in the past, you would upload it to this platform, and it will learn and understand the way of writing, how you then respond to the bids, and how you normally streamline the costing. So this is fully backed by AI through Microsoft's OpenAI for you to then streamline and train your knowledge hub in order to do effective submitting of bids. So this will also generate templates based on the content that you've uploaded. So as an entrepreneur, you would upload your content to this knowledge hub, and it will templatize the generation of the proposals through your content. So this will obviously save time for you as an entrepreneur and ensure that you leverage existing technologies to innovate and submit bids quicker and faster. Okay? So the platform has a lot of features as well. So these features will go through into a bit more detail, but it's simply just boils down to how do you make the turnaround time for you to generate proposals that are efficient and quick in a manner that works for you as a business, entrepreneur, or an institution. Okay? And then I think I just spoke about this as well. So there is a growth still that will happen within the tender space, whereby the economy for digital transformation, empowering of SMMEs through tendering, this will obviously ensure that we accelerate that market growth on our side and ensure that we provide a system that will be easy and friendly to use. Okay? And then maybe the last part before we go into the demo. So I think a lot of AI has been discussion around the theme of this summit. So not to dwell deep on it, but we need to start utilizing AI in an effective manner. So through a Propel bid, we obviously know that your data will be secure in terms of the content that you're uploading to the internet. So this platform will be governed directly through secure channels where multi-tenancy will be applied. So you as a user, whether you're coming from an institution or from the private sector, or as an individual, you will be logging in with your credentials. Your data would be stored in your space, meaning that you're not just uploading your personal information to the internet. So we obviously built in key features that ensure that we improve your delivery time, as well as give you that competitive edge in the outputs and the RFQs that you would be submitting. And then it integrates to the Microsoft ecosystem. So even if you already are utilizing Microsoft as an entrepreneur or a business, it would be an easy and plug and play solution for you. So I'm just going to pause here for now, and then just hand over to my colleague just to show us the app. Thanks.
Okay, I think Kia has already touched on the platform, what exactly it does and what problem we are trying to solve. I think throughout this conference, we have all accepted and understood that AI is here, and if you are an employer, your employees are definitely using AI to generate content. Recently, there was a Deloitte report that they found that it was generated using AI, so we can't run away from AI. So this platform, all we are trying to do is, most of the AI tools out there are chat-based, so a user goes in, they upload a document, and then they type in to say, can you generate this document for me using the attached document. So what we are doing here is, we created a more user-friendly UI for that particular workflow. So as you can see, we've got the Knowledge Hub. So the concept here is that if you're a tenderpreneur or you're a business, you've been doing this for the past 10 years, or it could be 3 years. So you already know how to write tenders, you already know how to respond to tenders, you already know your pricing. So what the platform allows you to do is you use your own data, so you could be using previously generated proposals, use your proposals that have won a tender for you. All you do, you come to the platform, you upload your previous tenders, and then you train a module. As you can see, we've got that module. So every customer will have their own custom module. You train it using your own data. The data is sitting on your own servers. It's not sitting somewhere in China. If you've got SharePoint, as we said, we're a Microsoft aligned house. It will also allow you to store it on SharePoint. And then once you've uploaded previous tenders that you've won, or proposals, the system will know your writing style, it will know who you are, it will know what company you are, and then you'll then be able to come onto the RFQ analysis page. And when you get to the page, you are then able to upload an RFQ. So obviously you will go to the e-tender site, download an RFQ. Once you've got an RFQ, the system will allow you to basically upload an RFQ, and then you will then be able to assess and analyze that particular RFQ. And then I'm just gonna quickly refresh. So once you upload an RFQ, the workflow is you will then analyze that RFQ using the data that you've trained the system on. And then the system will then be able to estimate, based on the previous submissions I've done, this is how much this particular project is going to cost. And then once the system knows the requirements and it also knows the effort it will take, it will estimate and say this is going to take 5 users to basically work on this solution. And then we also have the proposal hub, where from all those RFQs that you've uploaded on the system, it will then allow you to basically generate an actual proposal, and the final output will actually be a Word document. So I think we're having a little bit of an issue with the Wi-Fi, but I'll just show you the final output, where now, once the system has learned and it has generated a proposal for you, it will then give you a final document that looks similar to this. So again, if my screen is still visible, it will basically generate a full document for you with, obviously, all this input has been generated by AI. It has even went as far as including your company name, including the customer that you are obviously trying to submit a proposal to. It will do a full introduction. It will do a full methodology, how you're going to deliver the solution. It will even go as far as delivering a project plan. And obviously, AI also won't be perfect, but the value proposition here is you get a system that will give you at least an 80% complete proposal using your own data, and all you need to do is obviously just verify that information that it has generated is correct, and it will even go as far as including your letterhead. If you've got a template, as you can see on the system, we have the templates section. So the concept there is that you should be able to upload your Word document templates. So each time you generated a proposal, you are then able to select a template that you want to use. You could be using 5 companies to bid, so you are able to upload all those templates, and then each time you generate, the system will be smart enough to obviously generate the proposals using the company letterhead. So I think that's it from our end. Okay, hand over back to...
Yeah, so I think the last part is obviously this is more on the generation of the proposals and RFQs. So even through departments, government entities who also need to publish or publicize RFQs and RFPs, we have automated as well such solutions where we could then extend phase 2 of Propel Bid, where RFQs can be generated as well through AI based on how the terms of reference and the business cases from the department is. So if departments, institutions are drafting out terms of reference for a specific skill, specific a process, or requiring services from service providers, this could be a solution also to have a faster generation of RFQs, and then in turn, through the bid propel for entrepreneurs, you would also have faster turnaround times in a submission of a set proposal. So there is a lot that still needs to go into digitizing how we then filter through the tender processing in South Africa. But this is starting point where we can obviously rely on AI-backed, data-secured, as well as user-centric platforms. Thank you so much, colleagues and partners, for your time. We appreciate. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, for that presentation. Siyabonga. We also have another speaker to present. Kethin from Northbound is also going to take us through his presentation. Over to you, Kethin.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today I would like to introduce Northbound Consulting to you. We have recently been accepted into the Microsoft Emerging Partner Program for 2025, and I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank Microsoft and the KZN Digital Transformation Summit for this acceptance. We appreciate the assistance, support, and future collaboration that we're going to be doing together in the future. So Northbound Consulting was born out of years of networking experience I gained while running an ISP network. And we quickly identified that there were going to be a few nuggets in IT that we want to focus on, and one being cloud. The cloud that will be pivotal across all sectors. And we can already see that with AI and with most of the work that AI will be doing for us in the future. The network is always going to be important, and security is always going to be the most critical underlying constant that we will always need to be prioritized. Cloud technology is expanding and innovations are emerging daily. At Northbound, our focus, number one, is to move your data securely and protect it in the cloud. Two, to ensure that you have the best path to get there. So how do we do this as Northbound, as your Microsoft partner? One is utilizing secure SD-WAN technology, VXLAN technology, and zero trust technology, and intent-based access. We want to optimize your workloads and to increase your employee productivity. We want to innovate with you. We want to use secure data in the cloud using Microsoft security products such as building data security lakes and utilizing tools like Microsoft Sentinel. And I want to talk about a little bit about security today. It is our passion. So a simple, unsettling fact that moving to the cloud doesn't automatically make you secure. It just changes the locks. And if you don't know where the new doors are, you leave them wide open. So today we're talking about protecting our most critical assets, our services, our data, in a cloud environment that is constantly under attack. So there's this fallacy that it won't happen to us, but I just want to quickly talk about a few examples that happened now in 2025, that took place in 2025. In St. Paul, Minnesota, 3,500 city employees had to physically go in to get their, physically go into the central location to reset their credentials. In Cleveland, Ohio, the Quinlan ransomware group, crippling blow, key systems for the municipal court were paralyzed for weeks. A Swedish HR provider for the Swedish government was hacked and then in turn hacked the municipality that was there locally. So the threat isn't abstract, it isn't hypothetical, it's real and it's happening right now. I'm limited for time, but I quickly want to talk about the new era of people who are actually attacking. You know, back in the day we had script kiddies. We now have script kiddies that are using AI-powered tools to hack systems. The vibe coding of security. So moving to the cloud is the right move for agility, for cost, and for future, but doing it without a modern, secure strategy is like building a new city hall with no doors. Chat to us at Northbound and we'll visit our stand that we have with the Microsoft Showcase, and we can chat further on how we can secure your workloads into the cloud. Thank you.
Wow, thank you, Kanthan. He did that within 5 minutes. Thank you again to Microsoft for the opportunity that has been given to the youngsters. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point I would like to invite my three panelists who are going to join us. Is the last panelist for the past 3 days, and it comprises of Mr. Mpilo Sbiya, who is the Chief Director, Provincial ICT, as well as Helen North, who is the Chief Director for Policy and Research in the Office of the Premier, And then we'd also like Mr. Mahlaba again to join us from Microsoft. They're going to take us through turning ideas into action. Basically, it's about the key outcomes and the roadmap from the info that has been shared by our previous speakers and panelists. Over to you, Sotobe. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mtiane, and good afternoon to the listening to us and viewing us on the live stream. And I also want to extend my greetings to all of you who are with us here since day one. We are getting to the gist of the summit. This session is going to pave a way forward and actually give a direction to the KZN digital transformation strategy. As we have indicated that this summit is part of a consultative process that we are doing with different stakeholders so that we shape our digital transformation strategy for the province of KwaZulu-Natal. In his opening address, the Premier indicated and gave us a guide on how we're gonna focus and actually develop the strategy. But before we get to that, and I must indicate that this session that we have is going to be an interactive session, Mr. Alex, with the 5 pillars that the Premier has guided us on. We want the contributions from the floor in each pillar. But before we get to that, I would like to give an opportunity to my colleague, Ms. Helen North, to have a contribution. Okay.
This one. So, afternoon everyone. We do have the very last whole shift today, so we're hopefully going to make it engaging and really wrap everything up. I thought it was really useful to look at what our average KZN citizen looks like. You know, we had Richard talk to us about Thandi. In KZN, her name would be Lisa Kanye. That's the most commonly registered name for births in KwaZulu-Natal. She would be a Black African female. 52% of our province is female, 86% of them Black African. And she would be approximately 27 years old. She would live in a household that has 4 people. She would have 2 children. 27 is the medium age of birth here in KZN, and our total fertility rate is 2. She would have a life expectancy of approximately 62 years, slightly higher than her male counterparts at 59. Women have a higher life expectancy than men because we're slightly less or risk-adverse, more risk-adverse than men. Her highest level of education, a matric. We have an 89% pass rate in the province, but just a 7.3% tertiary enrollment. So her odds of being tertiary educated are very small. She would likely be a child support grant recipient, 2.4 million grant recipients in the province, and 80% of them are female. Her home language would be isiZulu. 77% of people speak isiZulu. We've spoken very little isiZulu at this session, but this is our predominantly spoken language. And her religion would also be Christian, 75% of the province being Christian. Marital status is single. 50% of the province is single. Only 27% married. And lastly, and sadly, her labor market status, unemployed. Unemployment rate for females much higher than males, sitting at almost 35%, and a staggering 65% of youth remaining unemployed. We wanted to just bring Lisa Kanye into the session today. We've been talking digital and we've been so far removed from who we serve. So this digital transformation strategy that Mr. Sabia is going to take us through the pillars through now.
We also commit ourselves in the pledge that is signed. He made us acting to digital transformation of KwaZulu-Natal. And